Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game schedule for Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, include my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, as well as my MLB season pass. You can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday in Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Minnesota Twins. Simeon Woods, Richardson, and Jake Irvin are your starters. Two starting pitchers that have pitched well this year, but two starters where you look at the expected numbers, they're not the sharpest. Simeon Woods, Richardson is expected ERA and xFIP about a run higher than his current ERA. The Jake Irvin, expected ERA in the mid-4s. So we can expect some natural aggression from both of these guys. But for me, Jake Irvin's did a really good job at keeping his team in ball games. His last 4 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 of those 4. And, even when the Nationals aren't backing him up offensively, he still does a good job at keeping them at least competitive in these games. A lot of low-scoring, close games for Jake Irvin on the mound. And I like Washington in this spot. I don't love the way the Twins' offense has looked in the last 2 weeks or so. They had a really rough series against the Yankees. They didn't start this series very strong. And, Woods Richardson, after an amazing start to the year, we got to remember he faced a really weak strength of schedule in those first few games. Since then, we saw the game against Toronto where he gave up the 5 earned runs. The last game against Cleveland, only 2 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. Both of those losses for Minnesota. I'm going to go with the Washington Nationals at a really good price at home. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Jose Quintana and Tristan McKenzie are your starters. I know Quintana bounced back in that last game against Philadelphia, 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs. It was good enough for the Mets to go on to win that game in extra innings, 6-5 the final. However, I still think that McKenzie is the much better option to start this game. I think the Guardians have the better lineup and the better bullpen, and I think I got to go with Cleveland in this spot on the money line. McKenzie, after a rough start to the year, has really found his game. You look at his last few starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 5 games. Guardians are 4-1 in those games. His strikeout numbers are getting there. The walks, the control, a little bit concerning. He's given up 3 or more walks in each of his last 3. The home run ball here and there, 3 home runs his last 4. But I still think he's in solid form overall. He's pitching deeper into ball games, 6 2/3, 6 2/3, 7 innings. So I like him in this spot to face a pretty weak Mets lineup. Even though they've been better against righties, I still think McKenzie's a better option here. And I'm going to go with the Guardians on the money line. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. John Means and Kyle Gibson are your starters. John Means has pitched well so far in his first 3 starts. Hasn't been dominant, the last couple of games. But, really good start against Seattle. Last one, 6 innings, 2 runs. Only had the 4 strikeouts. I'd like to see him miss some more bats, but he's also been known to be better on the road. His first road start this year was that 7 innings, shutout ball, 8 strikeouts against the Cincinnati Reds, and the Orioles have won each of his first 3 games. I think he pitches well here. The Cardinals, while their offense is improving, not so much against left-handed pitching. They're still one of the weakest lineups in the month of May in terms of OPS, isolated power against lefties. And, Kyle Gibson's also pitched well, after a really rough start to the year. I know his last game wasn't his best against Boston, but it was still good enough for the win. He went 6 innings in the end, so he gave the Cardinals some much-needed innings. And, the Orioles, we've talked about it. Their offense has really struggled against right-handed pitching. They've crushed lefties, but against righties in the month of May, near the bottom of the league in OPS, ISO, WRC+. And we know Sonny Gray in the first game of this series threw 5 no-hit innings. I know he gave up a 3-run bomb, but that was after a couple of errors in the 6th. But he pitched really well. I think Gibson can give the Cardinals 5-6 good innings, quality innings. I think we go under the total here at Busch Stadium. Next up, the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Houston Astros. Tyler Anderson and Hunter Brown are your starters. I think Hunter Brown is heading in the right direction. He had a couple of mistake pitches in that last game against the Brewers. Other than that, it was really that one pitch to Joey Ortiz where he hit the 3-run home run. It was a pretty solid outing for Brown. He had 5 strikeouts through 5 innings. He's got to watch the walks. He's got to watch the home runs. Those 2 things, the home runs per 9, the walks per 9, have been the problem for Brown this year. But I like the fact that he's missing more bats now. 12 strikeouts his last 10 innings of work. And I think he pitches well. The Astros still won that last game against Milwaukee, and that's against a tough lineup. And now you're facing the Angels. I know they've improved against right-handed pitching, certainly. But, Tyler Anderson on the other side, he's pitched well in terms of his ERA. He's got that 2.72 ERA, but the expected numbers are not very strong. I think the expected ERA is 2 runs higher than that current 2.72. So I worry about regression, especially when you're facing an Astros lineup that we know has crushed lefties. This season, last year, in the last few years, low strikeout rate, high OPS, high isolated power. I know, most recently, the last couple of weeks, they haven't been as strong, but I'm not too worried about it. I still think this is one of the toughest lineups to face if you're a left-handed starting pitcher. So I'm going to go with the Houston Astros in this game. I also lean towards the over in Astros Angels. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Kansas City Royals. Tarek Skubal and Cole Ragans are your starters. One of the best pitching matchups we're going to see all season, but especially in this division. Skubal's got to be one of the favorites to win the American League Cy Young. He's got right now 6-0 with a 1.8 ERA, 66 strikeouts, and 55 innings of work. He's in great form, 2 earned runs or fewer each of his last 5 starts. He's been excellent on the road. It's tough to go against him on the road with a sub-1 ERA so far, but it's also tough to go against these Royals when they're playing at Kauffman Stadium, especially recently when they're facing a left-handed pitcher, as they have crushed lefties in the month of May, especially at Kauffman. And Cole Ragans, while his numbers aren't as sharp as Skubal's, with an ERA below 4 by 3.8, I still think when Ragans is at his best, which we've seen a few times this year, we saw it in his last game against Oakland, and we saw it plenty of times in the second half last year, he can go toe-to-toe, in my opinion, with a guy like Skubal when he's on. And I think, it's a promising sign to see him after that bad start against Los Angeles pitch as well as he did against Oakland. 7 innings, 7 strikeouts. That's not an easy lineup to face against lefties. Oakland's got some pretty good power numbers against southpaws this year, so I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. But the Royals have a great record at Kauffman. They've been a very profitable team at Kauffman. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Royals in this game. I trust their lineup more. Detroit's numbers against lefties have been miserable in the month of May, so if the difference is a couple of runs offensively, I think Kansas City's going to get those runs, and I'm going to go with the Royals on the money line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Miami Marlins. Freddie Peralta and Jesus Luzardo are your starters. Freddie Peralta's given up a lot of sharp contact right now. He's given up 16 base hits in his last 11 innings of work, which is not what you want to see. 8 earned runs to go with it, 2 bombs to go with it. And I know, that 1 home run he gave up to Jeremy Pena was really a good pitch. It was honestly exactly where Peralta wanted to put that pitch. Pena just made a great swing on it and found the Crawford boxes, but I still think that Peralta has some concerns right now with the Marlins hitting righties a lot better in the month of May than they did in April. It's tough to go against the fish in this one, because Luzardo's pitched well recently. Even before the injury, he was pitching well. And then after the injury, we saw the last game against the Mets. Now, I know the Mets have been one of the worst lineups against lefties, so you can't put too much weight into that. But the fact is, Luzardo's missing bats. He's pitching deeper into ball games. We know he pitches better at Lone Depot Park. And while it's a tough matchup against Milwaukee, I think he's up for it. And I think that the values with the Marlins in this game, we saw them battle back in the first game of the series and steal a win. I'm going to take the Marlins in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Michael King and Nick Martinez are your starters. Michael King, we've mentioned, has been the most inconsistent starting pitcher, the toughest to read starting pitcher in Major League Baseball this year, because we've seen some absolutely outstanding outings, like his game against the Dodgers on May 10th, where he went 7 innings of 11 strikeout, shutout baseball, in a 2-1 Padres victory. And then he follows it up against the Rockies at home. Colorado playing after a Coors Field series. They faced the Padres, at Petco, and King gives up 6 earned runs and a home run, and he had 7 strikeouts, but 6 earned runs, 8 base hits, and 5 1/3 innings, and an 8-0 loss. So we've seen him, the really good and the really bad, 6 earned runs plus in a couple of starts this year. It's tough to know what you're going to get. Now, this is not an easy spot to be in at Great American Ballpark, but the Reds are the weakest team in baseball in terms of OPS. They're dead last in the league in team OPS against right-handed pitching in the month of May. And you know what I feel about Nick Martinez if you've watched the rundown the last couple of years. I've mentioned the same words every time every time he starts. Nick Martinez, in my opinion, is not a viable starting pitching option in this league. So while Michael King has had a few blow up innings this year, I'm pretty sure Nick Martinez invented the blow up inning. So I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Blake Snell and Jared Jones are your starters. I've got to continue to fade Blake Snell early in the season. It's May 22nd going into this game, but his last game was on April 19th. He hasn't pitched in a while. He's only had 3 starts this year, so it's still the early season for him. And the Giants are 0-3 in his first 3 games. He's given up a lot of earned runs in all those games. 3 earned in 3 innings in his first start against the Nationals, where San Francisco was a -200 plus favorite. They lost that game 8-1. Then against his former team, the Tampa Bay Rays, gives up 7 earned runs and 2 home runs in a 9-4 loss for San Francisco. And then against the Arizona Diamondbacks, the worst loss of them all, it was 4 2/3 innings, 9 base hits, and 5 earned runs in a 17-1 Arizona Diamondbacks victory. The Pirates have been pretty solid against left-handed pitching this year, and in the month of May, Jared Jones has been more than solid. He's got a sub-3 ERA this season, great strikeout stuff, quality starts in 4 of his last 5 games. I know San Francisco has the much better bullpen in this series, so if this game does end up being close in the later innings, I'd worry about a San Francisco comeback, but I still think the Pirates win this full game and the first 5 innings, so give me Pittsburgh in this one. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Andrew Heaney and Taijuan Walker are your starters. Now, it may seem crazy to think with Andrew Heaney at 0-5 and the Rangers only winning one of his starts this year, and Taijuan Walker 3-0 and the Phillies 3-1 in his 4 starts. But I think Heaney is the better option by far in this game. And I actually like the Rangers in the first 5 innings at least, and honestly in the full game as well. Andrew Heaney, while the last game wasn't his best against the Angels, I still think he's trending in the right direction. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 4 starts. His strikeout numbers are still there. And even the walks, which have been a concern for Heaney throughout his career, he's been able to keep them to a minimum. Last game he had a little bit of issues against the Angels, like I said, but other than that, he had no walks given up in the previous 4 starts. So I think he's just been rather unlucky this year, and I think he's going to get some run support in this game early on. Taijuan Walker has that ERA of 4.91, even though his first 4 starts were against the Padres, Giants, Marlins, and Mets. Not necessarily murderer's row. Maybe the Padres are the best lineup of those 4 teams, but we know that the Rangers, by far, the toughest matchup he's going to be facing yet this year, one of the best lineups in the American League, the defending World Series champions. And I think the Rangers get to Walker early and often. He's given up at least 1 home run in each of his first 4 starts. His strikeout numbers have been all over the place. He gives up a lot of sharp contact. I like the Rangers to get on the board early, take the lead through the first 5 innings. Now, the Phillies have the better bullpen here, so that's why I say maybe just take the first 5 innings. But I still think the Rangers win the full game, so give me the Rangers in this one. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Brian Bayo for Boston, no official starter for the Rays. To me, Brian Bayo is his best when he's keeping the ball on the ground. We saw that at the beginning of the season, but now his last 2 starts, his first 2 starts of May, he has less than a 50% ground ball percentage, and he's given up 4 home runs in those 2 starts to St. Louis and Washington combined. So that's not really where you want to be, and I think the Rays have improved against right-handed pitching offensively. They got Josh Lowe back in the lineup. He is certainly a big piece to that offense, and the Rays bullpen's improved. If this is a bullpen game, I'm not necessarily as worried as I used to be with this Rays bullpen at the beginning of the year. We saw them, with some of the worst numbers in baseball. So, we'll have to see who the official starter is for Tampa Bay, but right now I am leaning towards the Rays on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Seattle Mariners. Bryce Miller and Nestor Cortez are your starters. Nestor Cortez has been a lot better at Yankee Stadium this year. When you look at the home and road splits, it's not just a lot better, it's way, way better. 25 1/3 innings on the road. He's got a 6.75 ERA and a 292 opponent's batting average, 5 home runs given up. At home, though, in 35 1/3 at Yankee Stadium, a 168 opponent's batting average and a 1.27 ERA, only 2 home runs given up in those 35 innings, so a much lower home run rate. And to me, I think Cortez, while the Mariners have been solid against lefties, it's tough to go against Cortez when he's pitching at Yankee Stadium. Bryce Miller's last start was pretty concerning. He only had 1 strikeout in 5 1/3 innings against an Orioles lineup that we just talked about, really struggling against righties. So to give up those 4 earned runs, 5 total runs, a home run, only the 1 strikeout, now you have to face the New York Yankees, who have been the best lineup in baseball against righties. I can't get there with the Mariners. Give me the Yankees in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Mike Clevenger and Chris Bassett are your starters. And I think Chris Bassett's also a starting pitcher that is trending in the right direction after a tough start to the year. We know that ERA at 5.03 on paper looks pretty ugly, but his last 3 games, he was 1 out shy of a quality start against Tampa Bay. He had quality starts against the Phillies, tough lineup there in the Blue Jays victory, and the Royals, another tough lineup in that one. So he's in pretty good form right now. I think he pitches pretty well against one of the weaker lineups in the league. Clevenger, not my favorite option to back. Now, he's been able to miss some bats recently, 10 strikeouts his last 9 1/3 innings, which is impressive, but I still think that Bassett's the better option. The Blue Jays have the better lineup. I'm going to go with Toronto in this one and take him on the money line and run line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Chicago Cubs. Max Fried and Justin Steele, pair of lefties on the mound in this one. Justin Steele just not in good form right now. He's got that ERA of 5.21, giving up a lot of sharp contact, and that's pretty concerning for a guy, I wouldn't say his only pitch to contact, but does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground when he's at his best. So to see 5 home runs given up in your last 2 starts, I know it was against the same lineup, but still 10 earned runs against the Pirates in those last 2 games, both losses for Chicago. Now the Cubs are 0-4 in his first 4 starts. The Braves, while they've been not so great against righties in the month of May, they've been a lot better against lefties. I think they should be able to get to Justin Steele in this start, and then Max Fried on the other side While his last start wasn't his best against the Padres, he's still pitching really well this year after a really miserable spring training and first start of the season. I think Fried's a better option in this game right now. I think the Braves have the better bullpen, and the Cubs' numbers against lefties have been mediocre. So give me the Braves in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Oakland Athletics. Austin Gomber and Joey Estes are your projected starters. Gomber's pitched really well this year. He's kind of a surprise. I mean, a 3.02 ERA at this point in the year, 50 and 2/3 innings. He doesn't really miss a lot of bats. He's not, not the flashiest starting pitcher, that's for sure. But I mean, his last game against the Padres, he was dominant in that one. 6 innings, 2 base hits, and no earned runs in an 8-0 Rockies win. 5 strikeouts to go with it. And, he's pitching some of the best baseball of his career. It's tough to go against him in this spot. The A's numbers against lefties have dwindled recently. Estes, we saw give up 8 earned runs in that last game to the Houston Astros in an 8-1 loss. I got to go with the Colorado Rockies in this one, getting a really good price on the road. And the final game for the Wednesday card in Major League Baseball, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ryan Nelson and Tyler Glasnow are your projected starters. This has got to be one of the more lopsided pitching matchups of the day in Major League Baseball, really of the week. Ryan Nelson, an ERA now at 7 after his last 2 starts, giving up double-digit base hits in both of those games. 10 to the Orioles, 11 to the Tigers. Now you face the Dodgers. The Tigers and the Orioles not really necessarily doing too well against right-handed pitching in the month of May. The Dodgers, they've crushed righties all season, and they should get to Ryan Nelson early and often in this game. While Glasnow wasn't good enough for the Dodgers to win that last start against Cincinnati, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, that's certainly one of his weakest starts of the year. He's still at 8 strikeouts. He's been able to earn a ton of missed bats this season, and I think he bounces back in this game, and the Dodgers win this one and cover the run line. The price is not right in this one. The Dodgers are a huge favorite for good reason, so it's probably a game that you're not going to find a lot of value on. But if I had to choose, I would take the Dodgers and lay the 1.5 runs. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.